So I started in fall of 2018, and I'm a part-time MBA student at NYU, working full-time at Google as an account strategist manager. I decided to pursue an MBA degree. Well, taking a step back, I was a sports management undergrad major, at NYU. And after I graduated, I felt like I met a ton of great people. I developed a really strong network. But as I entered the workforce and started to progress in my career, I realized that I needed a foundation that was a little bit more focused on an operational and a financial rigor that I never really got from my undergrad experience. So the main reason I decided to go back to get my MBA was to make sure that I've got these foundational tools as I pursue management roles, and as I see others in the space or influential leaders who have a specific rigor, to use the same word, to their management style that has allowed them to succeed in their roles. Networking is a huge aspect of my MBA program, and a little surprise to all of us here, I think it's definitely been a challenge with the COVID pandemic that's impacted, I think, students worldwide. So I think, especially as I started school, I had a strong focus on networking. And the way that I went into my program and just the trajectory that I wanted to take was to have an open mind and to meet everybody. Right. I went to a private Jewish high school in Los Angeles growing up, and I did grow up in somewhat of a bubble. And being at NYU undergrad, but really focused on my MBA program, it's exposed me to so many interesting people who've got their own interesting stories, work in various different industries, and who all have something to bring to the table. So my advice would be keep an open mind, talk to as many people as possible. Everybody's got stories that are super interesting, and you'll stay in touch with a lot of the people that you develop, networking relationship with as you start to move throughout your career, even after your MBA program. It's a good question. I've had some really good classes. I think that the two that stand out to me, I'll go with two because I've had a few good ones, but the two that stand out to me, the first is emerging financial markets. It's a really interesting course. We learned about the up and coming emerging markets in Africa, in various different parts of Asia, and more so globally, that you never would really think about, when you're thinking about economic powerhouses. And there's some really interesting data in terms of demographic trends where, within the next 20 years, by 2030 specifically, you're going to see markets, especially Africa, demographically ahead of where we are in terms of the United States and China, who are considered the powerhouses. And there's a lot of funding that are now going into emerging markets. So I'm super interested to see what happens in the next few years and just kind of learning about the ecosystems, the political stability or instability, and some of the other infrastructural elements of these emerging countries is really interesting. And then one class I'm actually taking now that's super interesting is business analytics. I really never had a specific background on the quantitative side of things. So taking this course has allowed me to actually thrive in my role as a manager because I've been able to take data, analyze it, and actually come out of the data with insights that I can then bring back to my team to empower them to be better employees, and really focus on specific areas that can help them move up in their careers. Again, I don't think this is going to be much surprise to anybody, but not being able to be on campus because of COVID has definitely been a challenge. And the way that I've tried to view this pandemic and the work from home and the quarantine has been as somewhat of an opportunity. Similarly to how I view it in the workplace, being able to adjust on the fly and being flexible has been something that I've tried to adapt towards my MBA experience. And the positives that I guess I've spun on not being able to be in person, not being able to interact directly with professors, not being able to grab a drink with a buddy of mine in class, has been, I think I've been allotted a lot more time to develop these relationships virtually, and also figure out how I want to navigate my own curriculum and rest of my academic journey from behind a computer screen. So whether that means setting up individual Zoom calls with my friends who I used to grab drinks with, whether it means emailing back and forth with a professor, I think there is a lot more attention being paid or allowed to be paid now to students who are interested in learning a little bit more about learning more context behind the questions or having one-off discussions. And I mean, again, I think it's also helped me translate better as a manager virtually at my role at Google, because I've been able to learn what I like and I guess what I don't like, from certain professors, from engaging in this virtual classroom experience that I can now bring back into the workplace as well. I wish I had a ton of time to read a full book these days, but my go-tos, I always start with a podcast called Snacks Daily. You can get it on Spotify. It's a quick synopsis of 3 key stories that are happening across business for the most part. Super interesting. The guys are really funny, and I think it gives you a great understanding of what's going on in the marketplace, and it gives you a really interesting analysis in terms of what you see from startups all the way through Fortune 500 companies in terms of how they're innovating, how they're dealing with the COVID pandemic, and also gives you some good tips in terms of stock trading. I think from a reading perspective, my go-tos pretty much every morning, I read Bloomberg, I read Entrepreneur, Wall Street Journal is great, and I think a lot of that context is also magnified through a lot of the courses that I've been taking. So I spoke about the emerging markets class that I had taken. I think that class and just reading the newspaper now gives me just a whole new view and appreciation for, again, like these underdeveloped markets that you're starting to see make headlines, and a lot of the economic and innovative progress that they are seeing in these nations. So definitely have some great context, and I think it's changed the way that I even read the newspaper when I wake up in the morning. Yeah, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Alex Fleshner. I think I'm the only Alex Fleshner on LinkedIn. So check that out. You can also feel free to reach out to me via email. My email is Alex, D like David, Fleshner, FLESHNER @gmail.com.